Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Chronicles, with us, the Red Devil Chronicle. My name's Andy.
And my name's Producer Joe.
And Producer Joe is my co-host for today, as Nick's not able to make it into the studio, unfortunately. Still plenty for us to discuss, though, including Manchester United's winning start coming to an end this weekend gone against Newcastle. That and a lot more to come next up on the United Chat. So recorded on a Tuesday morning, a strange one, just in case anything breaks in the meantime. We wanted to get some content out, but unfortunately we're not able to do our usual Thursday night show, so you'll see this podcast a lot earlier. And Joe, as I say, you're co-hosting, so welcome.
Yeah, you caught me off guard a bit there. I think it's because it's still early. So.
Still very early doors. Let's start with the Newcastle review then, from the weekend, of course. Manchester United 0, Newcastle 0. How did you see it, Joe?
Oh, a disappointing performance at home. I mean, it's a team you should be beating. I don't understand why we weren't chasing a win. We just seemed to lack a bit of the final touch wasn't there. I don't know how you saw it, but I just think it wasn't quite a United performance. It was more of a Chelsea performance from the start. It's
becoming an increasing problem, this boring, lethargic football that we're watching. Certainly not something that United fans are used to, especially at Old Trafford. We know teams are going to come out and play the same way against us week in, week out, especially when they come to Old Trafford, as I say. But we just don't seem prepared for it.
Well, you said it before the game that all Newcastle are going to be doing is playing for the 0-0, and that's, I mean, there was a small hope for Newcastle they were going to score at one point with the chance they hit the bar, but it's just not good enough, really. Again, I know Nick's not here to talk about Rooney, but
are you going to put one in for him?
I think that maybe he did play a bit like a brick wall that game. Everything was bouncing off him, and I can see why fans are frustrated. But there's still no other options out there.
It's problems that we've seen though last season and the season before with United. Improving against the bigger teams, or the so-called bigger teams of the league, and struggling to get the wins in against the so-called smaller or lesser teams, shall we say, the sort of mid-table and lower teams. It seems to be an ever-growing problem for us that they're able to set up well against us. I mean, do you think we were unlucky not to win, Joe? Obviously with the Rooney goal that wasn't.
I mean, there was a key player missing from Newcastle's defence in Janmat, and I think that it should have been exploited a lot more. I think that I completely forgot who was playing in replacement for him.
He was called Talvin, I think, if I'm pronouncing it right.
But I think he was up for the challenge that game, and everything that... I mean, Memphis was pretty predictable last game, and I know he's my biggest fan, but I think United just let us down, and I think it was a poor team performance, I think, with a few standouts.
Yeah, I mean, we started quickly, Joe. I mean, we looked sharp and dangerous. I mean, the first 10-15 minutes, probably the best that we've seen in a while at Old Trafford in terms of attacking display. What happened beyond the 20-minute mark?
Well, Rooney scored, and I think I mentioned it last week, as soon as United score one goal, we can't seem to make any more chances for ourselves.
So even though it didn't count, you think mentally...
Yeah, I think mentally that United
team just switched off.
Yeah, exactly. I think what's happening is Van Gaal's got this possession game in his mind, and he's drilling it into the squad rather than exciting football, which is... It's a shame for the fans, and it's a shame for the team because it's not going anywhere at the moment. If it was possession with something at the end of it, then it'd be a bit better, but at the moment, nothing's coming from it.
Is that what Van Gaal's building towards, though? Building a solid structure at the back, building a team that keeps the ball and retains it well, and then bringing more creativity and flair once he's got the rest of it right?
I think we've got to be honest with ourselves. We couldn't turn around last year's squad into maybe a Premier League winning team. I think you've got to start somewhere, and maybe this is a starting year for United. Maybe it's a good start to build some structure rather than just going out all-out attack and doing what the fans are shouting for.
I think there's an expectation in United's fans' heads that we're certainly a top four team, but some, despite the fact that they don't think we're going to win the title, seem to think we should win every game.
I think it's the history of the club, isn't it? I mean, again, the last 10 minutes of the game, United would be putting crosses in, they'd be doing anything to score that winning goal. But again, it was just being slowed down by the likes of Chris Smalling, who was great at the back, but just slowing the game down for me.
I mean, as I said to you earlier, though, Joe, I mean, were we unlucky in parts? I mean, the Rooney goal arguably could have stood. I mean, technically it was ever so slightly offside, but I think the officials need more help. I think that's a bigger issue. But I'm also talking about the Hernandez chance. If he was sharper, might have finished it. The Mata chance on the volley.
I mean, this is where games are won, really, these chances. You can't have a centre-forward, as he was playing, missing chances like that and hitting it against a keeper when it seemed easier to put it in the back of a net for anyone. I think I could have put that one in the back of the net.
Definitely. I think Chris Smalling as well, chance at the end. I know Newcastle nearly scored at the other end from it. But again, I mean, there were more chances created. I just don't think we were clinical enough on this occasion. You know, You hear United fans blame lack of chances created a lot. Well, here were the chances. We had 6 shots on target first 15 minutes in that game. Not a single goal to show from the chances.
More than the game before in total, wasn't it? So in the first 15 minutes. And I think that it was exciting at first, and I think people were expecting it to be exciting after the cries of Bruges and how lucky we were in one way. So I can just imagine what's coming next game, and I think it lies in Fellaini.
Possibly. I know he's coming up in the fan takeover with some very interesting thoughts on him. But Joe, you touched on Memphis. We need better movement. I think that was the problem caused by this. Memphis and Mata constantly looking to come inside. They're in similar positions all the time, so the wing-backs know exactly where to place themselves all the time.
Are we missing Young for that then? We used to take it down the wing. Are we thinking that Young could be an option on the right in place of Januzaj and Mata in the middle and Memphis on, just to give something else to the game?
Memphis goes missing when he's played in the middle, certainly in the couple of games that he did pre-season, the game against Tottenham. I don't know how we're going to make this work is the problem, because Ashley Young, yes, can go and try and beat a man. I mean, he was very unsuccessful in doing so against Kyle Walker, but he gives it a go. The problem then is, if he gets there, his crossing is horrendous. Like, he doesn't create chances. He gets into good positions and wastes them. It's the end product with Young that's the issue.
I think Memphis is having similar struggles, though. I don't think Memphis' crossing has been spectacular this year.
Oh, no, it hasn't.
I think he's had a few good crosses. I mean, again, he's getting into the positions and not always finishing it. I mean, he lost the ball 35 times, I think I read the other day, which isn't really a good stat, but if he was winning the ball back, I think fans would have a bit more sympathy for it. But because he seems to be a bit more lazy and a bit more lethargic about winning the ball back and just wants to be involved in the final third of the game.
I just think because they're so restricted, Mata and Memphis, I'm not totally convinced whether they should be playing in those wider areas with the way they want to play. It just seems like the predictable football is an issue all the time. 9 times out of 10, you know exactly the position they're going to be stood in. And also, as well as the movement being an issue, the lack of pace again in the football, as you touched upon a moment or two ago, Joe, especially towards the end of the game. We're 0-0 at home at Old Trafford, and there's seemingly no pace. We're sort of taking the sting out of the game, and we're playing everything in front of the opposition's back four.
Well, the only person who really seemed to switch it back on was Mata. I think he was absolutely excellent. Again, he missed his chances, but he seemed like the only player on the pitch wanting to get the win. And I mentioned Chris Smalling just slowing the game down when we're 0-0. It was 92nd minute, and we seemed to be holding it up in defence. Whether we were at that point just playing for the 0-0 and worrying about getting the point rather than losing it totally. But I'd rather have made some more chances and lose the game than watch what I had to watch on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a disappointing one. I mean, as you say, Mata did threaten. Missed a couple of chances perhaps on another day go in. Luke Shaw, I think, again, continued with his impressive start to the season. The whole of the back line and the midfield, again, they look solid enough. It's just no one's really standing out as a real sort of driver of the team.
I think we've got a very sturdy defence and midfield at the moment. The back lines are doing the job very well. I think because of that, it's almost too structured and not enough chances are coming from it. I mean, we've got 2 pretty much holding midfielders playing next to each other. You said throw Herrera in there and see what that brings to some more creativity, because the ball's not going anywhere at the moment. It's just going side to side and then going to the edge of the box and then seemingly going back to the defensive line, which isn't attractive football.
It isn't. I don't mind that being played, though, for 1-2 goals ahead, trying to protect a lead. But when you're trying to go out there and score, I think it's brilliant. It's not all negative. The positives are there. That structure in the back of midfield is fantastic. 3 clean sheets in league is brilliant, but it's just that same problem again. The intent up front, the movement up front, everything is so structured and predictable that we're not breaking teams down.
Yeah, it's the simple fact that we're just not having the final pass into the box to someone who can seem to hit a ball. I mean, part of the problem is probably Rooney going missing in matches. It's leaving a big gap for people like Memphis, Januzaj Mata. They've got no one to pass to, so they're having to do it all themselves and lose the ball, and then Rooney seems to want to win it back in midfield still.
There's a real frustration you can see from Rooney, isn't there? Like, the longer the game goes on without him getting a goal, without him getting a chance, he does drop further and further back to try and go and grab the game, go and get hold of the ball.
I mean, he's got to start his tally off one point, and I think once he does, I think the confidence starts flowing, because, I mean, he had a goal drought for England, I think it was, and when he scored that one, they seem to be flying in ever since. So,
I mean, plenty of good strikers go through these goal droughts. It's been well discussed by some of the ex-players, turned pundits. It is a common issue. I mean, you remember Robin van Persie under Sir Alex Ferguson, when a good number of games, possibly even into double figures before the goal against Stoke, and you could see what it meant to him when he scored. Sometimes you're just snatching at those chances, and playing up front is such a confidence thing. It is just down to confidence, I think, with Rooney, because I still feel there's talent there. There's more than enough.
3 years out of position doesn't help you. The ability to create these chances for yourself, he just doesn't seem to be able to hold a ball up and to be able to take the touch on to hold the ball up. He seems to just hit it into positions where he has to chase it, and he's always chasing rather than being in control of the match.
So, I mean, there were a couple of players that impressed. There were a couple of players that perhaps disappointed a little. But the thing is, Joe, I don't know if this is just me, but watching the game, there wasn't really anyone who stood out as a poor player either. There was no one who was particularly brilliant, but there was no one that had a real shocker of a game, really, was there?
I mean, I think it was all consistently bad.
Just bang average, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was more of a top 10 side trying to get into top 10 than it was. I mean, I've seen more excitement from Crystal Palace this year. So I think there's just something missing. It's just a creative vision is just not there, and I think it's something that maybe they need to start working on the training ground more, because it just doesn't seem to be. I think maybe we're just working on too much on the structure of the game.
Yeah. I'm going to get some the fans' views on this, because, of course, we had the fan takeover, as we do every Monday on Twitter, @WeFollowUnited, if you want to get involved. And then we're going to end with a bit of Club Brugge preview, of course, for the Wednesday night game. The fans' views on the game, though, we asked you on the fan takeover for a one-line review of the game and to give it a rating out of 10. Joe, we've got some thoughts from the fans here.
Yep, so at C Clay United 1978. I've got that completely wrong, sorry Chris. He'll be on the show later, you can shout at me then. Lacking finishing touch, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, we've got at ChitChat213 says, if it was fantastic, we would have won. That, of course, with regard to Louis van Gaal's comments about the performance being fantastic. Obviously, he doesn't agree. He gives it, again, 6 out of 10.
At Cogsy666, great for 20 minutes, just missing a goal, 6 out of 10. Again, everyone's just going for 6.
A lot of 6s out of 10.
It's quite a high number.
Yeah, there's one that's gone for a 7 here. At Gigs83 goes 7 out of 10. Could have been an 8 had Waz's goal stood.
Maybe he's blind as Giggs. That could be.
Well, that could be an issue. But yeah, I mean, 6 out of 10 certainly seems to be it, and it's about an average performance, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Club Brugge game, Joe, and have a quick chat about that. Of course, we're ahead 3-1 on aggregate going into the away game Wednesday night. Do you think we should tweak the starting lineup for that game?
Like I said, you already know who's going to be featuring. You can tell there's going to be some changes, but I mean, I hope that. Do you know what? I think the squad shouldn't change too much, because I think we're in a winning position, and that structured approach might be quite helpful for an away. We're away from home. Don't think we've played in Belgium for quite a while, so it's a different style of game. You don't know what Brugge are going to turn up with.
I think for once, this slow sort of tempo football, a structured approach that Van Gaal's instilled early doors, will come back as a benefit in this second leg.
I mean, I feel horrible asking for a slow, structured approach, but no, it might be nice, and I think
it might just get the job done.
I think it'd be good to see players like Memphis again, seeing what he can do against these smaller teams, building some confidence. And Rooney, I mean, he should be starting, but I can imagine Hernandez will feature in the squad as well.
Whether or not he gets to start, well, it's a different matter, but he certainly seems to deserve a chance. He adds a little bit more in terms of intent up front. The problem is he just needs more chances than we're creating to get the goal. But maybe that will come with time. We did create a lot more, as I say, last weekend. I mean, Joe, just a simple question here. Do you see us progressing into the group stages? Are we going to get there?
I mean, it's fairly obvious that we should be doing it. I mean, I can see it. Yeah, I don't think Bruges are going to turn up and score 2 goals. I just can't see it. If they score 2 and we don't score 1, then I think a lot of fans will be crying for Van Gaal's head. So I think that it's got to be done if we're not getting through to the group stage of the Champions League and then progressing through that, because it's, again, in them early stages, it's a confidence builder. It's a way to kind of boost the squad, to see what we can do, see what we can achieve, and to progress through different competitions is what absolutely pivotal for this year.
And if we throw it away, that was the target of last season that Van Gaal was targeted with getting us. So if he gets us into the 4th spot, everyone thinks we're in the Champions League, and then we get knocked out by Club Bruges. If that happens, then really what we're saying is Van Gaal has failed on the target in the first place, and that will lead to questions being asked.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think it's got to be looked at if Van Gaal doesn't progress, and because, like you say, it is the target. But for me, I can't see Bruges getting into this tie. They scored a lucky goal, which Carrick managed to.
It's a lovely finish by Carrick.
Yeah, again, just fluffed it in, but it's. I'd hope that we'd see a bit more structure and a bit more of a faster approach to the game, but at the same time, keep building on what we've got.
Absolutely. Do you want to see any changes against Club Bruges? Please do contact us at We Follow United with who you want to see making the squad. Next up, we're going to go into more detail on the fan takeover. Fellaini, Hernandez and more coming up next. As always, Monday saw plenty of great points and intriguing United debates during the fan takeover. I'm delighted to say that one of our regular contributors on the Red Devil Chronicle joins us on the line now to have a chat through some of those. We've got Chris on the line. Hi, Chris.
Morning, guys. How are we doing?
Yeah, very well. You're good?
Yeah, not bad.
Fantastic. Now, Chris, we heard earlier on during the United chat, we ran through some of the reviews on the Newcastle game, of course. You said 6 out of 10 on that one, which a lot of United fans did.
Thought it was a bit generous, that one, Chris, to be honest.
Just a quick word to start with that. Let's have a chat about the Newcastle game with you. How did you see it, Chris?
I didn't say we played too bad. It was just the lack of finishing in goal, in front of the goal. I think we've gone from playing like Chelsea with a really boring, methodical attitude to almost playing like Arsenal, where we just tried to walk the ball in the net at one point.
Yeah, it did seem to be an issue. I mean, certainly the argument went out the window about not creating enough chances, Chris. So
exactly,
it just came down to, as I say, the lack of clinical finishing. But of course, we've got some bigger debates to discuss. So let's fire straight in with some of the others that we discussed yesterday on the fan takeover. We'll start with this one. Of course, the window closes a week today, September 1st at 6 o'clock. It's going to be brilliant. So
you jinxed it now.
2-part question for you, Chris. Who do you think we need to sign firstly, and who do you think we actually will sign?
Need to sign? Well, we need to sign a centre forward. That's a given. Who we will sign, with all these names banded about, I genuinely have no idea what Manchester United Football Club is actually up to.
Do you think any of these targets that we read about are realistic, Chris?
Well, you've the name out on, which I thought was absolutely just ridiculous. But his agent, is he Pini Zahi? I can't even pronounce his name. He was obviously photographed in the director's box at Old Trafford on Saturday.
Yeah.
So there's no smoke without fire.
Could it be the best bit of business we've seen in about 4 years from Ed?
Well, I still think Muller is the one that we should be going for. I read somewhere, I can't remember whether it was a newspaper article or again on social media, that Muller's relationship, he's quoted as saying his relationship with Van Gaal is not like a coach, it's more like a father from his time at Bayern Munich when he brought him through, the junior ranks. And I think that is the possibility one, in my eyes.
Well, I mean, I certainly hope you're right. I mean, it seems like if Pep had his way, I think Muller probably would leave if we paid the money.
I mean, I've seen on social media this morning, apparently we're going to go in with one final €80 million offer.
Well, fair enough. I mean, if that works out, it's certainly the sort of player we need. I think more so that you say than Neymar, although Neymar's the bigger player, and of course, with the pace, the talent, that's always going to be something that's well touted. But we actually need more experience, a proven goal scorer, and in that you certainly got that with Muller, I think.
I just can't see Neymar being parted from Barca with them just getting rid of Pedro. I mean, they've got the front three obviously, and getting rid of one winger and then getting rid of the other one. But who Barca left with?
Yeah, well, exactly, and they can't play any of their new signings until
with
January,
the embargo,
with the embargo, so
exactly.
I just can't see that one happening.
No, I can't either. So striker seems to be fairly obvious choice there. We certainly need one, and Muller certainly would be a great target if that happened.
I know Chris was a big fan of Rooney, and like myself.
Still am.
I just wanted to know if your opinions have changed any Joe since watching him at Newcastle and just watching the ball bounce off him. And
he looks slow. He looks unfit. I don't know. I don't know whether he is or he isn't. Someone actually said that his plays, I can't remember who we were compared to. He's played 300 games more than a guy in the Premier League of a similar age.
So are we thinking that he's just kind of one year too many?
It could be. I mean, I hope I'm proved wrong. I really do. But
it's the point I heard the other day on Talk Sport about has he got too many miles on the clock? Have the expectations of a young age being played week in, week out, used for England regularly from a young age.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, one of Rooney's biggest. Well, one of his biggest strengths was the aggression in his game, and when he was young,
his work rate,
and his work rate. And let's be honest, an older player can't put in the same amount of miles, but. I mean, last year, you can't argue with it. He was probably one of our most committed players on the pitch, and he won the ball back for us the majority of the time. So I just maybe he's just had a bad start to the season. We can't really expect too much in 3 games from him. Well, 4 games now.
We don't seem to have anyone that tries to go beyond Rooney, within a move. Like Memphis, tries to get beyond him, but Mata doesn't have the pace to get beyond him. Januzaj hasn't got the pace to get beyond him.
Well, we all know my opinions on Januzaj, so...
that is a growing concern, though. I mean, if you got Muller in, surely Rooney drops into the number 10 role just in behind, and you've worked your problems away.
But does that not leave Mata still on the right, Memphis on the left, which you're saying is a problem?
Are they not clever enough players to interchange?
I mean, that's what we're begging for, really. The idea is fluidity across that 3 and behind the 1, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But just another question I just want to ask you before we move on to the next debate we had on Twitter, Chris. Of course, it's the Euros next year in France. Wayne Rooney's getting very close to becoming England's all-time record goal scorer. Mm-hmm. To save his career, should he retire after Euro 2016 if he breaks the goal-scoring record?
It could well do. It could.
I'm just thinking in terms of perhaps getting a couple more years out of the tank.
It depends on his own mindset. He's such a passionate player for England. I can't see him doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised. I just think sometimes do you have to sacrifice one to get to get a better career for another couple of seasons?
There's a lot of high-profile men players that have done that, so it could do. But I think that'd be more a family choice and personal choice for himself.
Perhaps so. I'm just going to fire quickly through some of the opinions on Twitter on this one. At Big C75 said we need everyone, we'll sign no one. Absolutely fantastic. At Cogsy666 says we need a striker and possibly a right winger, but I'd be surprised if we sign anyone. Seems like no one seems to believe United are going to get hold of anyone further. I mean, it's crazy.
Edward he stitched us up earlier on in the season. We didn't look like we were going to sign anyone, and then all of a sudden, 2 fantastic midfielders that have started really well for us. They appeared. So who knows? He could surprise us. I just don't think he will. I think it may be coming from even above them.
Are the midfielders part of the problem though? Having two big names in.
We might have too many good midfielders now, but they don't all play. That's a possibility. I think against the weaker teams, I think maybe Herrera's got to start.
I mean, we're all begging for it. Yeah.
Yeah, with one of them.
I mean, we were doing this last year. Think back to last season. Herrera wasn't being put in the starting squad, and then the fans were begging for it.
When he did,
and then he came into it, scored a goal.
He's got goals in him as well.
He has, definitely, without a doubt. Someone who has also allegedly got goals in them on the next debate is Marouane Fellaini. He's come up with a couple of vital goals of late, which has silenced a couple of critics. He's back from suspension this weekend, of course, Chris. Now, we asked the question, would you start him this weekend? And 56% of the fans that got involved said yes, they would
I'm
throw him into
surprised
the
by
game
that.
against Swansea. I was as well. I mean, Chris, where do you stand on that?
I would start him against Bruges
Start him against Bruges.
in the 10 row
Okay.
and see how he performs.
Who do
in
you
the
drop
10
out
row.
of that squad for
I would
Fellaini?
drop Rooney and play Hernandez on Fellaini on Tuesday night.
With
Wednesday night,
Januzaj
sorry.
and Memphis.
Or Mata and Memphis.
Wow.
That's interesting. It's an interesting for such a big fan of Rooney. Yeah.
I think
But
he,
do you not think-
it just needs an arm putting round him, maybe prior to a Swansea game.
Do you not think it's
Say,
it's a good chance for Rooney to build some confidence against a smaller club? If he got a couple of goals, would that not?
It goes both ways there, doesn't it? Possibly, yeah. It could work that way.
If we're playing Hernandez purely just because Rooney's not doing it up front,
Or you could start with Rooney in the 10 row and Hernandez up front and see how that works.
So, I mean, are you tempted to start Fellaini during this game to see how he performs coming back from a bit of a break out the team? And then if he performs and he plays?
Yeah, he's going to need games before. I mean, Swansea are a very good technical side.
Yeah.
We're not. I don't think we'll get a lot of the ball down there because we keep it so well. So maybe Fellaini isn't an option for that game.
I mean, at Ali Atherton on Twitter seems to have hit the nail on the head for me, saying, I don't think we have a choice. Unless we get Hernandez or Wilson to start scoring, essentially we have to start Fellaini, which is worrying. I mean, how have we found ourselves in this position where a midfielder becomes a striking option just because of his size?
Well, I think he played like that at Everton, didn't he? Himself and Cahill, they sort of like played as a false nine.
Yeah.
For a lot of the time there. I mean, he's got very good finishing ability. He's not just a big guy. He's got good feet. He can play the ball. But
No, exactly, and he scored some vital goals, as I say, Chris. The one against Crystal Palace, even the one against Bruges recently, to change the result entirely, in my opinion. I mean, do you still think, though, it's a lack of good planning by United that we've been missing out on, strikers coming through, real, centre forwards that are going to get us the goals rather than relying on others?
We'll let RVP go, which there's a lot of negativity about. Obviously, Falcao didn't work out. We even let Welbeck go.
Yeah.
I mean, would Welbeck be in this squad now, or would that not just make things worse?
I don't know.
I mean, watching the chances being created and then a scuff from the shin padders.
He's got the pace that we were lacking.
He's got that, but then he did only score 4 Premier League goals, which is the same as Falcao last season. That's a fact. Yeah,
But
I'm just throwing out who we've let go.
No, I appreciate your point.
We haven't replaced them, have we?
No, absolutely. I mean, this is what I'm saying. The planning side, as you say, I mean, Welbeck, it's not a brilliant striker, but even so, we have let 3 strikers go, and we've not replaced a single one of them.
No.
So we're now relying heavily on other people to chip in. One of those players was Ander Herrera when he got brought into the team, who's now gone again. So we're now relying on defensive midfielders to try and chip in with some of the goals. They're not going to do that.
No, they're not.
So there you go. There's a problem. But
one of many. Yeah.
One of many. Moving on to another man left out in the cold of late. Of course, Javier Hernandez, who's briefly shown his pace again, and creating chances, coming back into the game from substitute appearances.
Mm-hmm.
We asked the people of Twitter, should Hernandez be given the chance to be our number 1 centre forward? Now 57% said yes on this one. Chris, where do you stand on this one? Hernandez, number 1 centre forward for you?
No, he's an option, but he can't play up front every game in this Premier League. It just get found out. Playing one up front, he makes the runs behind, but he's not strong enough to roll the ball up, and I don't think he's got enough technical ability either. So, for me, no.
So if we sign no one else, then you'd still have to have Rooney as your number 1, surely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Hernandez can come in lesser games, or supposed lesser games. I don't think there is a lesser game in the Premier League really now. But and
Well,
you
this
could play
is it.
Rooney at 10. But we genuinely need a centre forward.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we've mentioned it before, Chris, but
I mean, if all the fans are seeing it, surely the manager Van Gaal has got to be seeing it as well. I mean, we can't be the only people thinking that there's a missing link somewhere.
surely.
Yeah, I think doesn't every club need a centre forward in practically every top club in Europe, apart from Real Madrid and Barcelona?
Yeah, who seem to get all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, at Big C 75, another Chris who regularly contributes on the page says, why not have Hernandez as number one? Rooney drops way too deep to be effective. But it's just a case of Hernandez liking to play on the shoulder of the last defender that Chris thinks makes Hernandez a good option. The problem with that, then, of course, is he plays half his game offside.
Yeah.
So
it's
how effective can you be when you're not playing onside? Would be my question.
I don't think we're seeing the full potential of United yet. I don't think we're seeing the full firing squad. It's still early doors. It's still 3 games into a Premier League season. It's not. You're never going to have the full fitness there. I think you've got to look, 10 games in, then to look and reassess, but then the transfer window is obviously closed then, so it's too late to see if anything's wrong with it.
I mean, it's a slow burner, but surely, United will pick up. I mean, you remember those run of games we went on back end of last season when we needed to. You've got to expect that sort of run to come back around
this
again.
Is still a squad with, 4+ new players playing every game for us. It's not a squad that's gelled together for 2-3 seasons, so
exactly.
It's not going to be the best. I mean, it's not going to be intricate passing all the time. We've got to kind of see what's coming from the future. I mean, each and every player is making a good individual performance, but there's just no team performance going on.
Just finally, Chris, let's move on then to this weekend's Premier League action, which of course sees us travel to Swansea. Now we're going to preview the game next on the weekend preview, but we wanted to get some score predictions in because, of course, we've started this Premier League predictor. So it's 1 point for the correct result, 3 points for the correct scoreline. I will eventually put this table up on Twitter where we're up to when I get around to it. But some of the fans' thoughts on this one. First of all, on Twitter, at Cogsy666 says, going to be positive, he's going 2-1 United. Whereas Big C75 says, kills me to say it, but 2-1 to Swansea. So a 2-1 win or a 2-1 defeat. Chris, where are you going to stick your hat on this one?
I've gone middle of the road there. I've gone 2-2.
Have you?
Yeah, I've gone 2-2 with Rooney to get in the
less
goal.
Optimism coming every week.
I was going to say, that's a lot less positive from you, Chris. Why do you see it that way?
I think that'd be a good result at Swansea.
It would be.
I think they're a very good side. They've got some talented players.
Is that something we would be saying 3-4 years ago? That's a good result.
You wouldn't imagine it, no. But they've built a very, very good, good squad.
They're a very underrated team, Swansea.
I think they've got a cracking young manager in Gary Monk down there. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think 2-2. I think that'd be a positive result for United.
Joe, let's hear your thoughts on this. What score are you going for?
Joe, I'm going to remain positive. Slightly less positive this week. No 8-0s, no 3-0s. I'll go with. Sure, I'm going to go with 1-0. I think because I've made this point over and over again. United think we can score 1 goal and sit on it, and I think maybe we'll do the same. So 1-0 Swan to United. Okay.
Nick sent his prediction. He's gone 2-1 United, so he's agreed with Cogsy666 on that one. I'm going to surprise everyone on this one, or maybe not after I've just said that. I'm going to go Swansea 2, United 1. I think we'll get beat.
A lot of this, I think people are starting to expect what we're going to be getting from United, which is, I mean, it's already sad to see this early stages of the season, but I think we've got to remain positive. I think that we're a good enough squad to turn over Swansea. I mean, you look at the names of Swansea and you look at the names of United, it should be a win. So to see us go there and seeing the fans say, "Oh, we're just going to get a draw," or "We're going for 2-1," or I think I'd like to see a fourth clean sheet.
I hope I'm wrong with my prediction. I really do. I don't ever want to see United.
Wrong as well.
Yeah, I mean, no one ever wants to see United lose, draw, whatever. We want to see United win week in, week out. But there are going to be games that we're not going to win. No one's going to go 38 games all wins. Swansea did the double over us last season. As Chris pointed out, Gary Monk, great young manager, seems to have Van Gaal's number as well. From the 2 games he played against him, last season, he seemed to play very well against us. And I look at the way Swansea have started this season. I know they drew against Sunderland at the weekend. They were unlucky. But they look superb.
A bit of confidence being knocked there by a poor Sunderland squad that are going down. So
you look at some of the saves. Pantilimon pulls out, though, in that game. He keeps that at 1-1, in my opinion.
Yeah. For us saying that, we'll never be allowed to go to Swansea again, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Sunderland again.
That's the end of that dream. Well, Chris, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you and hearing some of your views on the big debates again from United this week.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, guys.
Hope that you can join us again soon. But In the meantime, enjoy the Bruges game, enjoy the Swansea game, and let's hope those predictions aren't correct.
Yeah, let's hope. All right, cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
All right, thanks, mate.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ra. Bye.
So they were the views then of Chris. He's at C. Clay 1978 United. I'll read it correctly for him, Joe.
Thank you.
So that was his views on everything United this week. If you want to get involved on the fan takeover, of course, before the Swansea game, get your predictions in. We're at We Follow United on Twitter. Get on the YouTube video, put your comment in with the score prediction on there as well. And next up, Joe and I are going to do something a little bit different. It's the weekend preview, and we're looking at the game against Swansea. No Nick, no shootout this week, despite the music. We're actually going to go with something a little bit different because we've not discussed it as yet during the show. We're going to do a bit of a weekend preview, and that, of course, sees us facing Swansea. We've just done some of the score predictions. I've gone for a United loss. Joe's gone for a United win. So we're going to have a quick chat more in detail about the game coming up because, of course, Swansea, as we mentioned there briefly, they have had a brilliant start to the season. You know, they had the draw at Stamford Bridge. They've won one, drawn, of course, away at Sunderland, which is a bit unfortunate. They've looked really sharp early doors, Joe. So
it's going to go one or two ways. This one, either Swansea's confidence is low and we're going to roll them over, or they're going to bounce back and try and hammer us at home. And it's not going to be an easy game to watch for United fans again. It's not going to be for the whole season, I predict, but. I think I've got optimism that the United can do something with the ball. We've got players like Memphis who should be starting to turn on in the Premier League. Still yet to open his tally in the Premier League. So Rooney's still yet to. So these two players there who need to start scoring goals. So I mean, I'd hope to start seeing him on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean we can only live in hope, can't we? But problems I see for United are potentially also advantages for us. Swansea, you can't see them, especially at the Liberty, sitting back against us, sitting in, going for the draw. They are surely going to come out at us. They've looked really good going forward. Jefferson Montero on the wing is full of pace, full of life. He's a brilliant player.
I'm just glad we've got Shaw and Darmian to handle the pace of these players.
I mean, with me talking specifically about Montero for now, I'll touch on a couple of their other players that have impressed. But yeah, you mentioned there about Darmian facing a test against Montero. Now, I think this is Darmian's first big test, in my opinion. Montero's form at the moment is incredible. As I say, pace is blistering, and he's tested everyone so far. Most notably, of course, Ivanovic at Stamford Bridge. He completely tore him up.
I mean, Ivanovic is an ageing player now, I'd say. He's more centre-back worthy than he is.
Still one of the best right-backs in the division.
I don't disagree with it, but I just think he's not always going to have the legs for it anymore, and when a young player comes along, he's going to sometimes outdo players like Ivanovic, and I think Darmian will probably pick up a yellow card, as he always seems to be making a trait for himself, which I don't mind because you think back to Gary Neville and the time of that. But I think you've got to see what he can do, and I think one thing that maybe Darmian needs to work on is stop putting that foot in to stop the ball dead against players like this. He needs to.
I think he makes naive mistakes, Darmian. A lot of these yellow cards you see, it's sort of grabbing players as they pass him, or sort of blocking players off unfairly. He knows exactly what he's doing, but it's naive to think you're going to get away without yellow cards for these. He's been booked in his last 3 games in all competition for us. It's a little bit of a worry because, of course, 5 in the Premier League gets you the ban. That means Valencia would have to fill in at right back for us again.
But I can't understand why we keep playing Valencia anyway at the end of games. I don't think Darmian doesn't look unfit.
No, Darmian has fantastic stamina.
That's what I mean. So when we bring Valencia on, I just can't see why we do it. Is
there not the worry that perhaps Darmian could end up with a second yellow, get sent off, and we're down to 10? I mean, if you watch the Newcastle game against Swansea, of course, Janmaat got sent off, meaning he couldn't play against United. That was playing up against Montero.
So are we thinking that Van Gaal's bringing him off just to preserve him for these games? Because we've got games that you think if he gets that second yellow, we've got Liverpool to face the week after.
I genuinely think it might be to save him in some games because he's not a rash player. He just makes silly little mistakes that lead to yellow cards, and you can't be affording to get yourself sent off. And Montero will, if he picks up a yellow card, will go at him all afternoon.
I mean, it's a player who's never really played in the Premier League, so possibly underestimated the quality of the wing play that comes from most teams. I think that's one of the main options for some of the smaller clubs, mid-table clubs. I think a lot of the wing play is important, and I think that's something we looked a bit I'm not sure about you, but Obertan with a bit of pace against us seemed to frighten United.
This is my worry, because as well as Montero, they have plenty of pace and creative flair going forward. They brought in, of course, Andre Ayew. Great signing. He adds real steel to the attack. They've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, John Joe Shelvey. The latter not so good on the pace front. You're
missing the Predator up front as well.
I was going to save him for last, because, looking at those three, again, playing in behind, of course, Gomes, who will be their main threat without a doubt. They have creativity, they have flair, they've got pace. They're good at shooting as well from long distance, so we're going to have to close them down all over the park.
I think Swansea have looked... Well, last year, of course, we learned that they were good at shooting from long range, and I think they've just looked a bit scruffy. I think it's been more kind of a few tap-ins, a few not excellent goals, but they've scratched through to a few draws. And
going away at Stamford Bridge and getting a draw first day of the season against the champions is no mean feat, though.
But you have to be up for it for these kind of games, don't you? Your first game of the season. I mean, a lot of draws have come from these last three games, and it's just going to be expected, isn't it, for the start of the season? Not everyone's got the quality yet. Not everyone's switched onto it yet. So I think there's going to be a few 0-0s, a few shocking surprises, and it's nothing to not be expected in the Premier League anymore.
Well, looking at the main threat, of course, that you touched upon, Gomes up front, he's looking like he's really settling down into some sort of form now. 3-3 in the Premier League so far this season.
I mean, he's got to stop eventually, hasn't he? So,
well, let's hope we stop him. But how do you think we should set up to keep our defensive record intact?
Well, I've actually really enjoyed watching United's defence. I think that's been the biggest applauses we've given this year to your defensive work. I think Shaw's looked switched on every game. Darmian's looked absolutely incredible, and you mentioned
Chris Smalling has been sensational for the most part,
and Blind's been very clever.
Blind has done a really good job, and I think he's surprised a lot of people, ourselves included.
I always brought the argument every week that I quite like Blind in that position, and you and Nick didn't seem to agree, but I think it's starting to show why you should be playing.
I still think over time that won't work out. There's bigger tests to come. I
think against players with a bit more quality, let's all be honest, the first three games haven't been against the biggest clubs in the league, so. I think you've got to be right, but I think against these teams where we've been able to play the ball out, it's been better than losing possession for every hoof that we decide to kick up the pitch for no reason. When a lot of centre backs would panic, Blind just plays it out.
So how do you think we should get at Swansea? How are we going to get in behind them? How are we going to get at them?
Swansea. I think we're relying on players like Memphis and Mata. I think they're the key to the game. I think we also need a bit of creative vision behind them, and Rooney to start stepping it up in front of them. I think there's a missing link in that. It's kind of almost a square of bad form at the moment, and I think it needs to start. We need to start stepping it up, and I think the key will be Rooney. I think a strong player is needed for this game. I think we'll see a lot of diving from players like Memphis, and I think if we play Januzaj again, we'll see a lot of. I think we need someone who can hold the ball up, and I think Rooney is the player who can do that if he stops letting it bounce off him.
I think personally the way I'd set up against Swansea would be to adopt the way other teams are playing against us at the moment. Away from home, I think we go in there, we drop deep to stop players like Montero getting in behind to provide service to Gomes and alike. I think we keep a solid structure as we have so far this season. And I almost think we invite Swansea onto us because we've been very good defensively. I think we should sit deep. I think we should invite a bit of pressure on. And then I think we have to hit on the break. The problem with that is we then need some sort of pace and intent going forward when we do.
Well, we've seen that Memphis has got pace coming from PSV. And we've seen that Januzaj has got pace, but they're not doing anything with it. They just seem to be getting to the edge of the area and then just making scruffy passes or a scruffy final touch, and I think it needs
Perhaps
to be...
Perhaps it's more the distribution from the midfield needs to be quicker from the likes of Carrick, Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger.
I think there's been a lot of slow-paced balls, but one thing I've noticed about Memphis is that he's not starting his runs early. He's stopping in the pitch, waiting for the ball to come to him, and then starting his runs.
That was something that frustrated me against Newcastle.
There's no urgency from the player. He stands there and waits for the ball to hit his foot, and then he'll make his move, and then the ball gets stuck up on his feet, rather than let him he's got the pace, so I don't see why he's not using it. Maybe he's not at full fitness yet.
I mean, there's an argument for that, but it just, to me, comes down to player intelligence. When you look at Rooney bursting forward on one of the couple of attacks that we had where we were in behind Newcastle's midfield, Rooney gets towards the edge of the area. Mata sort of stands in his position on the right-hand side of the area. Memphis stops and watches from the left-hand side. And Rooney's got no options to pick out.
A lot of ball watching going on, and
There is.
I do agree with it. You've got to look. Rooney is making the runs, but at times, if you're watching the game, I don't know how many people are watching Rooney while all the passing's going on in midfield, but he's making these runs. He's trying to get
a lot because Rooney will be in the midfield playing the ball around probably.
But at the start of the games, like Newcastle, he was playing in front and trying to get behind the defence and making these runs. And I think he's not getting the service, and then he gets frustrated, starts dropping back. Then we see it's just a ridiculous formation. I don't even know what it is when Rooney starts doing that. And I think that it's just a shame to see the balls not come in. We know that they've got the quality to play the balls. I don't understand why they're not being played. And when Rooney gets frustrated, he needs to stick to positions because chances will come for him.
Definitely. In terms of the predicted or wanted, should we say, starting 11, because it probably won't happen. I'll run through the side that I want to see out there, Joe, and you let me know if you want to tweak this at all. But I would go with Romero in goal. I think we have to. Darmian, Smalling, Blind and Shaw, same back four. They've done a perfectly good job for us so far, so keep it that way. I'd be tempted to start Carrick again for this one. Schweinsteiger picked up a little bit of a knock. And how fit he is at this stage, I don't know. Whereas I thought when Carrick came on, he looked sharp against Newcastle. Not perfect, but looked sharp.
Well, he had a bad game, didn't he, against Bruges? He had something to redeem himself from. I mean, he's not played in the Champions League, not played against this squad that he's not been used to for a couple of years, and I think it took him by surprise a bit. I think
he's a slow starter to a season as well.
Yeah.
It's well documented, but I think he started to look like what you'd expect to see from Carrick. So I would have Carrick holding, I'd have Schneiderlin, and please free Herrera and put him into that midfield three. I would then have Mata on the right, Memphis left, and Rooney up top. So it's very similar sort of structure.
Except for you bin in Januzaj, which
I just want to see Herrera in there. I think the problem is creativity. It's moving the ball up the pitch quicker. Herrera's distribution, yes, it's risky at times, but it's quick, it's sharp, and it makes things happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we need something else. There's clearly something missing. Whether
his link-up play with Mata as well was sensational last season.
I mean, we all know Mata and Herrera. They love training
Spanish
together.
Bromance.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be nice to see it come back to the game because I think that could add an extra level for us to get into the game and get a goal. Because I think Mata's looked quite sharp. I think we've seen a good start to the season from Mata. I think it's been one of his best starts to the season. He's not been dropped yet, so
I think he still has to play out of position in this one because I want to get the midfield three in on this one, purely so Herrera gets a start. But we've also got solidity with a set two.
So who eventually comes in for Mata's role until he drops more central? Who will come and replace that?
I don't know if Mata will ever get a chance to play centrally because I think 4-3-3 probably is the best formation because you've got to get Herrera in there somewhere. I wanted to play the 4-2-3-1 as it was well documented throughout a long time, but I think the problem is Van Gaal is never going to play the right two as you sit in. He's always going to play Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin or Carrick.
They're very similar players who they do an excellent job together, but there's no risk. If you could
play a 4-2-3-1 where you played Schneiderlin or Carrick alongside Herrera as the two, and then played Mata centrally, then you could definitely play a 4-2-3-1. If you're going to play two very similar players, you look at the way Chelsea set up in their 4-2-3-1. They have Matic as the dominant holding player, and then they have Fabregas who usually sits in next to him. Fabregas is then given more licence to roam forward, so he's sort of pivoting.
A creative vision of the team.
Exactly, because he's not a defensive player. Neither's Herrera particularly. He can make a tackle. But I think if you were playing those two in the midfield, a defensive midfielder and someone that could pivot and create chances going forward, then you could play the 4-2-3-1.
Have we signed too many of the similar players, like Chris mentioned? Have we got too many good holding midfielders now? We've got Carrick, Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger.
Yeah. I don't think there's a problem having strength in depth, though.
No, but
Carrick's towards the end of his career, for honest.
Saying that we could have... I mean, Carrick, we probably will retire at the end of the season.
Maybe go one more. I don't know. I mean, he's 34 going on 35 by the end of the year. by the end of the season, rather. But I think he's not going to be able to play week in, week out. And I think when you look at the injuries we had last season, I don't think it does us any damage to have cover in that position, because as soon as Carrick left the squad, we were in disarray. Our defensive shape completely went. So I've no problem having Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger there as
but
backup.
We've got replacements for that. But I also would like to see Schneiderlin involved in a bit more of the... More because we all know he's a set-piece specialist. I don't understand why he's not being involved more in that side of the game.
I mean, Schneiderlin's been brought as a creative input, a sort of a balance between the two, because he is more defensively minded. He is there to break up the play and press high.
At the same time, though, we saw some great... We've seen his vision for Southampton in them set pieces and other situations, and I think we're just relying on these exciting players to take all the stick for it, rather than get some of the players who have that talent, consistent talent.
I don't think you're going to get Schneiderlin chipping in with a great number of goals. I think what he can do, if you push him higher up the pitch and everyone presses with him, Schneiderlin definitely plays the high press game really well. Some of our other players are letting him down on that front, and there's no point pressing by yourself. But if you have other players supporting Schneiderlin in pressing, he will win the ball back high up the pitch a lot of the time. And then if you've got Herrera that you can drop the ball into, you can then play the through balls into Mata, Memphis, Rooney. That will work, more often than it won't.
So what we're saying pretty much is we like the squad. We like what we've seen from the squad, but we just need a few, which is a whole lot better than last year.
Exactly. It could certainly, we could be one or two simple changes away from a very, very successful season. One in which we might not win the league. I personally don't think we'll mount any sort of challenge, if I'm being honest, against what you see from City. I think Chelsea
have got to turn
it up as well.
Yeah.
But I think a couple of tweaks could certainly send us, certainly back in the direction that we need to be going. So that would be my team. I think Fellaini and Hernandez could potentially make impacts from the bench, depending on how the way the game's going. But let us know how you see it on Twitter as well, please. What starting 11 do you want to see? We're at We Follow United. Get in touch with the team you want to see out there. Who are you starting? What big decisions would you be making if you were Louis van Gaal? Do let us know. Next up, to finish the show, it's a bit of a sad moment for us. It's the final transfer talk before January. Here we are then, it's our final dedicated transfer talk of the window. That feature will be back in January. But a couple of big names circulating yet again, so we'll have a run through those now to end the show. Joe, we touched on him earlier. Let's start with the Neymar rumours. £140 million reported bid, £240 million total deal. What do you reckon to Neymar?
Oh, but you can't... You can't throw that as a question. Neymar, I mean, yes, great player. You can't argue with his talent. I think he's 24. I mean, I don't know if you know the age of him.
He's around that age. He's still young, but
still,
what I'm asking when I say what do you reckon to him, more what are the chances of getting him?
Well, that's a different kettle of fish.
It certainly is.
It's a good. I don't know. Actually, you've got to argue that you've got some sort of chance, haven't you, with a buyout clause of.
I think it's 190 million euros.
Yeah, so about 140 million.
Something in that region.
So
yeah.
it's not a no, is it? I mean, if we were looking at the start of the window, we wanted to spend about 150 million, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What did we say our net spend was? About 13?
Well, according to Nick, I mean, I don't really get involved in the net side, but he was saying 8 when we spoke to him last.
Yeah, so
it's not a big spend, but this whole net thing, I mean, you're still spending a lot of money. It's big investments. But then if you need to spend the money to improve and it will genuinely improve, then I've no problem with that.
You've got to ask, would Chelsea, would City, would Real Madrid do this to improve the squad? And the answer would probably be yes.
I think anyone with Neymar in the team would be improved. I mean, you look at that front three at Barcelona, he's comfortably in there.
But is he good enough to play the centre-forward role on his own?
Well,
is he there to replace Rooney, or is he going on...
He's probably going on the right, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And then we still have the same issue of Rooney.
Yep. Doesn't solve the issue, and it's a lot of expenditure. Realistically, I don't also think it can happen potentially at all. Certainly not this summer, in my opinion. But there are supposed rumours out there that maybe, if not this summer, next summer. So we'll see how that one goes. We've given it a mention, so let's move on because I can't see this one. We'll move on to Felipe Anderson, Lazio player. He's back on the radar again. We mentioned him earlier on in the window, Joe. He's a nippy Brazilian striker, so he supposedly solves the striking problem. Here's my issue, though. 10 goals in 45 Serie A games. That's not a conversion rate that makes you happy, is it?
No, well, I don't know an awful lot about the player, I've got to be honest. But are we not just signing another Hernandez? A quick nippy player that scores the odd goal. Is it not just a similar player to what we've got?
I mean, Felipe Anderson certainly held in higher regard than Hernandez, but when you look at the goals scored, you can sort of see the argument you're making. I mean, 10 in 45 is not a brilliant return for someone who's supposed to be a centre-forward. And like you say, it's similar sort of mould. It's that smaller, pacey, sort of attacker. Yeah, it's not the sort of person that you can aim up to that's going to hold up the ball for us.
And I think that a lot of the big teams in the Premier League have that player. You look at Giroud, he can hold up a ball. You've got Costa.
Benteke.
Can't argue with strength. Benteke.
Aguero.
Aguero can hold up a ball in his own right. But
he's got a lot of strength for the size of him.
Exactly. So that's something that I think the Premier League is a niche to. It's not all slow, not fast-paced, intricate play. A lot of it is hold-up play, which I think that United are missing.
Well, there you go. Not a big scorer at Santos either. So is he really the striker United need? Do let us know on Twitter your thoughts on Felipe Anderson. We'll move on to another attacking option. It's all attacking this week. Attack, as we hear the chants. Marco Reus. Now, rumours of Madrid interest, also slight rumours of United interest. Don't know where they've come from, but there you go. Would Reus realistically come to United, do you think, Joe?
It depends. It depends where the other interest is. If you've got someone like Barcelona knocking at the door, you're not moving an awful long way, and he's probably, used to the lifestyle over there. It might not be a big change for him, but like you say, it's a place we need strengthening, and I think he's a good player. You've got a point, I'm sure, about the signings he's just made and how you can't fit them all into one.
The problem I've got here is Madrid are the other team majorly interested, supposedly. If you look at the players they've got at the moment, they've got Ronaldo, Bale, James, of course, Isco. They've just signed Kovacic, the young attacking midfielder. You add Reus to that. How are you fitting all of those into an attacking role?
I don't. This is the glory of Real Madrid, being able to spend money wherever and put a bench better than United's squad.
The problem is those players will not be happy sat on a bench.
No, obviously they can't be happy. But again, they're still a team that needs depth in quality. So will they be looking to sign this season, or do you reckon they're just going to let the players bed in as a team? We'll
see. Reus was out of the team last week, but then came back in at the weekend, which has quashed some of the rumours surrounding that one. But we're going to end with a continuing theme again of attacking options. Alexander Pato in terms of players coming in. The oldest 25-year-old I can remember, Joe. He's been around for years. Europe's forgotten man, the next Messi, call it what you want. Huge potential lumped on him from a young age. I remember watching him, 6, 7, 8 years ago. He looked a phenomenal talent. And then he's disappeared off the map. He's Corinthians back in Brazil now. Again, a problem with him only being a sort of small player. Is this the sort of player United needs to be after?
I think we're just. I don't want to see United that's just panic buying. I think we need to. If there's no quality out there, then you need to sit on the squad that we've got and hopefully improve that next year when maybe players become available. But currently, it's hit and miss, really, isn't it? If these players are going to be effective at United, again, it's another Falcao. Do we really think that they could have the sort of effect that we need?
He'd be looking, really. He'd be restarting and trying to rekindle his career.
Historically, we've always had a bigger, taller player on the pitch than Van Persie.
Van Nistelrooy.
Are we missing someone like that?
I think we are, but the problem is we haven't got many players out there like that, that are available to buy. Joe, let's end with one quick line on players out. Johnny Evans, Everton and West Brom interested. Anything to say on Johnny Evans?
Well, I think we all know our opinions on Johnny Evans. He's clearly got to go.
If we can get a swap deal, not swap, but we'd have to throw some cash in. Let's get Berahino, let's get Stones, let's throw some cash in it, see what comes of it. That's all we've got time for on this week's show, though. So thanks ever so much for everyone that's got involved with your opinions on Fan Takeover. Do look out for us next week. We're back to our Thursday slot. do also contact us at We4United on Twitter. And thank you, as always, for listening.